There we go. Good morning, everyone. Here we are again. I was going to say we're in Rosemary's kitchen, but actually we're not in Rosemary's kitchen today. We're actually in Rosemary's sitting room. And as usual, I'm here with my spirit guide, Grey Eagle. Gosh, I can't even move my words here. Have I been drinking this morning? No, I have not. So my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, is, as always, to my right side, and of course to my far right we have Carolyn. Say good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn.
And today we have a guest. We have a little visitor. We have Carolyn's daughter, Sammy, Samantha. What would you like to be called, Samantha? She's sitting opposite me. She's gone totally shy. She really wanted to do this. She was excited to do this, but now she's doing it. She's become a mute. What do you want to be called? Sam, Sammy, Samantha?
Sammy.
Say good morning, Sammy.
Good morning, Sammy.
So she's just like a mother, it's just you tell them what to do and they do it. Isn't that good? All right. So Sammy's here because why? Sam, why are you here? Is it school vacation time?
Yes.
So as in England we would say it's school holidays. It's the holidays, school holidays is what we would say.
That sounds so much more
festive. Does it
Yes,
really?
yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So our subject today is strange encounters. Do. Don't you like that? I love that. So, all right. So strange encounters. Now we are going to be taking questions. We are going to be, answering live questions. So to all of you who are here live, good morning. To all of you who are going to watch this later, hello. See how that works? And so we thought we'd start off with, what did we think we'd start off with? What are we going to start off with?
A couple of spooky
Shall we start off with a spooky story?
Yes.
Anyone would think it was Halloween, wouldn't they? All right, then. So I got Carolyn to make a little list of sort of spooky stories. Really not so spooky. So remind me. Would you like to remind me?
How about your friend John with the ceiling?
Oh yes, that's a great story. All right, so let's start off with that. This has nothing to do with me whatsoever. All right, so this happened to a very good friend of mine in England, who was lying in his bed one night, and he was asleep. He would be 8 years old. Let's say he would be 8, and he was sound asleep. He woke up feeling someone tugging at his foot. And he opened his eyes and he saw his grandmother. Now, he knew his grandmother. Even at 8 years old, he knew her very well. And she'd passed, I think, a few months before. He saw his grandmother standing at the foot of the bed. And he sort of opened his eyes. He came awake and he heard his grandmother say to him, "Get out." And he didn't take much notice. He was still sort of half asleep. So he sort of snuggled back in to go back to bed, and he felt her tug again at his foot. And this time louder. "Get out." Like this, you see. So again, he's just 8 years old and he's a bit spooked and he's a bit scared now. So he thinks if he puts his head under the covers, under the blankets, that it'll all go away. So he starts to sort of curl underneath and he feels his leg being shaken again really hard. And he sort of comes out from the blanket, he looks up, and there is his grandmother, and she's looming right over him. Now, he knows she's dead, but she's very much alive to him at this point, right? So she's looming over him, and in a loud voice, right in his face, she yells at him, "Get out!" Well, he gets so scared, he leaps out of bed, and he goes running into his parents' room, shouting and crying about grandma. He just gets into their bedroom. His mother wakes up. She grabs hold of him. He's crying. And they hear this massive crash. They all jump out of bed and they run into this boy's room. where the ceiling has collapsed on top of this boy's bed. With no doubt whatsoever, had he not got out of bed in that moment, he would have been killed. Was that a coincidence? Did he jump out of bed? Was that a coincidence? Was that him just dreaming? Or was it really Grandma who was trying to protect him and trying to keep him safe and making sure that he was not only, not dead, that he wasn't injured, because had he not died, he could have been very seriously injured, because the entire ceiling just simply collapsed on top of the bed. And that was his strange encounter. And he likes to tell that story quite often. But to him, it's a very real story. And I happen to know his mother, who confirms, yes, that was in fact the story. So that's one interesting strange encounter. Do we have any other strange encounters? Sammy, do you have a strange encounter that you want to tell us about? She's not speaking. She wanted to be on TV, but now she's not speaking. But I'm going to get her on the sofa in a minute. Don't worry, I'm going to get her in a minute. So, all right. So,
what about the friend with the tire?
Oh, well, yes, another strange encounter. These are quite mild, and then I'm going to tell you a spooky one, all right? Would that do, a spooky one? All right, so many, many years ago, and if you've read The Eagle and the Rose, I think it's in that, I'm not sure, but I think the story's in that book. I had a student of mine who was also a friend, and I knew her, and I knew her husband, I knew her sons. Her husband and two of her sons were car mechanics, so they knew cars inside and out. And so here we are, right? She's going on a journey the next day, and she comes on Friday night. She comes. She's a student. She comes to class, and during class, I see her grandmother, I think it was, standing next to her, and the grandmother was trying to give her a message about the car. Be careful with the car. Be careful with the car. And the grandmother then shows me a picture of my friend's car, which I knew very well, sitting by the side of the road with a flat tire. So I tell my friend, look, get your husband, and I tell her what I've seen, and get your husband to check the tires and so on. So the next morning, before she and a friend drove down to visit family, the journey was about a 2 or 3 hour drive, her husband and her sons went over the car, checked the tires, with a fine-tooth comb, totally checked it out. Everything was fine. So she called me, she said, we can't find anything. So I said, well, just drive, don't go racing off down the road like you're prone to do, just drive carefully. So off she went. So they arrived 2 or 3 hours later at this, the family's house. They went inside, had a cup of tea, and the friend said to her, I'm just going out for a walk. Off she went for a walk, came racing back into the house seconds later, and said to my friend Joan, you better come out quickly. You better come out. Come and see. Come and see. Come and see. So they all went out, and there was Joan's car sitting by the side of the road with a flat tire. I mean, what is that? I mean, that was predicted 24 hours, not quite 24 hours before. And on these stories go. I, was able to tell my daughter, for instance, the exact day, date, and time to the second that my grandson was born. I mean, what is that? That's not exactly a strange encounter, though. But so now I'm going to tell you sort of a bit of a spooky story, which is very hard to believe. And even as I shall tell it to you, I still find it hard to believe myself. All right, so many, 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 many years ago, because we all know that I'm a very, very old lady now. So many years ago, I was in England, and I was in bed, and it was sort of, the alarm went off, and I reached out, and you know how you do, I switched the alarm off, and I looked at the clock, and I'm thinking to myself, what have I got this morning? And I had 2 clients who were coming at 10 o'clock. And it was like, I don't know, 7:30 or something, 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. So I thought, oh, I've got 5 minutes. I can have another 5 minutes. I'll just sort of close my eyes, have another 5 minutes. And I'm thinking all this to myself, when all of a sudden I realize that someone's in bed with me. Now, that hadn't happened for a long while, let me tell you. Right? Even years ago, I didn't share my bed too readily with anybody. Anyway, so here I am, and I'm thinking I could feel someone in bed behind me, and I started to panic a bit because I'm thinking, you know, who is it? You would panic, wouldn't you, if you felt someone in bed with you? And I'm not talking about just feeling as if someone might be in bed with me. I'm talking about feeling a body, a solid body, curled up next to me. And as I'm thinking this, I start to panic. As I'm panicking, I feel an arm come around me, and I am literally pulled into this body. I'm literally pulled into this, you know how you snuggle into someone and you curl up, and I think they call it spooning. Anyway, so I'm pulled into this spooning position. Now, I put my hand on the arm because I don't know what's happening now, and now I'm really terrified. Is this a serial killer I've got in my bed? Is this just, I mean, how did it happen that somebody came into my bed? But even as I started to panic, I had, as this arm gripped me tighter, I started to feel this immense sense of peace and well-being. And I started to find myself sinking into it, literally sinking into the warmth and the peace, and almost like the love that it was palpable. I could feel it. And as I'm getting into this, I'm snuggling into this, I look at the clock again, and then I ignore the clock, and I don't know how long I lay like this. I tried to turn my head, but I was too close and too snuggled in to be able to turn my head to see anyone. But it was a solid body, a solid arm, solid legs that my legs were sort of snuggled into, spooning into. I started to feel myself completely give into this, totally give into it. And this went on for quite a while. And then all of a sudden I realized, I looked at the clock, and it's something like 9 o'clock by this time. And now I have a choice. And my choice is, do I continue? Do I stay where I am? Because at this point, there's nothing I want to do more than stay where I am, even though I don't know who it is. I just want to stay where I am. But if I don't get up, there are 2 people coming for a consultation at 10 o'clock. If I stay where I am, I ignore them. What do I do? Well, I did the responsible thing in the end. As much as I didn't want to break the spell, I actually eventually sat up, and I turned to where behind me, no one there. You'd think I, of all people, would be able to see if there was somebody there, wouldn't you? You'd think I'd be able to see. I didn't see anything. I couldn't see anything, but I felt everything. And that was a very weird, strange encounter for me. Many, many years before this, when I was a little girl, I must have been sick. I don't know how old I was. I might have been 6 or 7 or something like that. It was a very tiny little thing. I was very sick. And for the first time and the last time that I can ever remember, I was taken into my parents' bed. And I was put in the middle between my mother and my father. And I was squashed, and I was suffocating. And I was terrified. I daredn't say anything. I daredn't wriggle because I was terrified of my parents. But my father's arm came around me, and he held on to me really, really tightly. And even though I was suffocating, and even though I was terrified to say, I can't breathe, you know, and I just put up with it and eventually went to sleep, it was that same feeling of safety with my father's arms around me, because honestly, as a child, I never felt my father's arms around me. We never hugged or kissed or ever did any of that. So when I was in bed with them, this was probably the first time that I can actually be aware that my father had ever put his arm around me for any reason whatsoever and held me safe. So here I am all these years later, and I'm in bed, and this arm comes around me. Was it my father? Could it have been my father? You'd think Greg would tell me, wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't you think somebody would tell me? Wouldn't you think someone in the spirit world would say, you are right, Rosemary, it was your father, but nobody says it to me. Nobody's told me who it was. So I could guess that it was my father. That safety, that feeling of safety that I felt when I was a very little girl, when I was sick, even though I was suffocating, I felt safe. That same feeling of safety was the same feeling of safety I had with this very weird, strange encounter all those years later. But to this day, I don't know who it is. I'm not frustrated that I'm not being told. It doesn't matter who it was. Whoever it was obviously loved me very much and obviously cared about me very much and obviously was trying to show me in the nicest way, in the best way, that I was, in fact, loved and protected. Isn't that weird? All right, so let's go to a question or two. Do we have anyone live on the show, Carolyn? I can see her typing, so I know she's answering the best as she can.
We do. We have a whole bunch of people here.
Okay.
Dean has a quick story. We have a couple of quick stories.
Okay.
Dean, when I was... Yes.
Hi, Dean.
When he was 10, he was in bed sleeping, but woke up and stared for some reason into the blackness of his room. It suddenly seemed like all this atoms...
You're reading this? This is Dean timing this?
Yes.
Great. Yes, go ahead.
It suddenly seemed like all the atoms of darkness started to come together into a figure that I knew was my grandmother.
Oh, nice.
I hid. And when I asked him if he stayed hidden, he said, of course.
Yeah. I have a funny story about a strange encounter of a student of mine. And she'd lost her husband years before. So she was in bed and, you know, she was about to go to sleep. She'd gone to bed. She was about to go to sleep, but she was still sort of awake, you know. And she felt the bed go down as if someone was sitting on the bed. She was on her own. She felt as if somebody had sat on the bed next to her. And she was laying on her side and she was too terrified. She was so terrified that she started to hide under the blankets thinking it'll go away. At which point she said to herself, what would Rosemary do? What would Rosemary do? Do what Rosemary would do. Just do what Rosemary would do. Being a good student, you see. So she sat up in bed and she turned and there was a lady there, sitting on the bed next to her, and she says in trembling voice, trying to do what Rosemary would do, hello, who are you? What do you want? And this woman talked to her for a little bit, and she had this incredible experience, this strange encounter with this person. Anyway, later on she came and she told me all about this story, and she said, and I was so happy because I just did what I knew that you would do. And I laughed and I said, well, actually, I might have hidden under the blankets too. But thank you, Dean, for that. That's a very interesting, strange encounter that you've had there. So do we have anyone else with a story or just a question, whatever?
Well, Joyce kind of has a question about a dream her husband had.
All right. All right, I think it's time to bring Sammy onto the sofa, don't you? Just come on, Sammy. Let's say hello to everyone.
Sit down.
While we're here, Joyce, you can sit with me. No, come on. Here she is. Say good morning, Sammy.
Good morning.
Say good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
There you are. This is Carolyn's daughter. We're going to, shall we keep you in there? You have to, once again, the sofa's crowded. Once again, I feel a bit like, what's his name? Graham Norton, who you all know I love to pieces, who has the red sofa. Come on, snuggle up just a bit.
Scoot over a little.
There we go. Right, she's all right. So now, move though. all the room. We have a question from
Joyce.
Joyce, okay.
Joyce is here in Florida.
Good morning, Joyce.
And she says,
whereabouts in Florida?
Homestead.
I don't know
I believe that's down by near Miami.
Okay, okay.
Okay, she says, my husband still is bothered by a dream after his father's suicide. Her husband woke up and his father's face went from behind the coal stove to his face in a flash. He ran out and still wants to know.
How old was he at the time? Do we know?
She does not say
Okay,
that.
all right.
She says he feels his father wanted to tell him something and regrets being frightened and running out.
You know, I think this is what the difference between someone weird like me and people who are
20, she said.
And thank you, he was 20. And people who are what we consider normal. I don't believe anyone's actually normal. Are you normal, Sammy? Nobody's really normal. Anyway, and you know what? Those people who are sort of a little bit strange are always the nicest people, I think. So, but the difference between most people and me is that I've had lots and lots of strange encounters. I'm reading a book. Look up on the opposite sofa, there's a man. Most people would run. When I say a man, I mean from the spirit world, but looking perfectly solid. Most people would run or scream or something, and my normal reaction is, oh, hello, who are you? What do you want? What can I do for you? So I'm not, in that regard, not normal. So who is it who ran? Joyce's husband
right.
Ran.
Yes.
It's interesting, and you know, lots of people tell me stories, and sort of lots of people recount incidents, and you know, you have to wonder how many of them are real, how many are imagined, and honestly, I'm sure your husband is wondering, did he imagine it, or you know, was it real, or what are you laughing at over there?
I'm laughing.
You're laughing because
I put a secret question down on the paper.
Oh, a secret question. All right,
and you just
and I just said it.
Yes.
Okay, all right, but but yes, people do. You know, people's imaginations can run riot. My imagination can run riot, and when I have these, let's say, strange encounters, which are perfectly normal for me, but when I have these strange encounters, very often, I always have to question myself. Did that happen? Is that real? And so on. And likewise, when I'm listening to other people and other people's questions, you know, I listen very carefully. And I'm sure, Joyce, your husband has wondered again and again whether he imagined it, but at the same time, I'm sure he knows that it really happened. The reason I can tell you that this was a real experience, I can tell you it's a real experience because of the way he describes how his father, how that movement was. 1 minute he was here, but then in a split second he was right in front of him. And this is often how people in the spirit world will present themselves, because remember, time and space are very different. Time is a very different thing that it is here on this earth plane. For instance, it might take me 30 seconds to walk from my front door into my kitchen. It might even take me a minute, actually. But for someone in the spirit world, you know, you're astral traveling, it takes literally a nanosecond to get from here to there. And when I listened to your husband's story and I hearing how he suddenly was in his face, I'm sure his dad did not realize how that was going to present, how he was going to present himself to his son. And I'm also sure that what the meaning of this strange encounter is really about his father just simply letting him know that he's okay, that he did survive that. I also feel very strongly, because especially as Grey Eagle is now putting his hand on my shoulder here, I feel very strongly that this encounter was not just to say to his son, look, I'm here, but to reassure him, but to reassure your husband or his son that everything, it was okay, that he would be watching over him and so on. Because I really feel, Joyce, that you know, your husband's father certainly is his angel. So I think, you know, I think it was a very real story. If you could tell your husband the next time he has a strange encounter not to run, you'll get a bit more out of it. Be brave, be like my student. Even if you're quaking in your boots, people, when you have a strange encounter or you see something that you don't quite understand, it, you know, sort of something that is from the spirit world, or you might perceive it from the spirit world, just, you know, just remember, just be brave. Doesn't matter if you quake in your boots, stand your ground, and simply say, I can see you. You know, is there anything you'd like? Did you come for a reason? When you ask questions of the spirit world, and we've talked about this before on other shows, when you ask a question of someone in the spirit world, if you can try to, when you answer the question, make it a question that they can only give a yes or a no answer to. Because if you ask a question that requires a more complicated answer, you might not be able to understand what the answer is. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? I hope you do. All right, let's have our, is there another question or another story? What's going on over there, Carolyn? Let's have a look.
We got Martha, who says, before I found out my oldest daughter was pregnant, one morning we woke up to angelic music at 6 in the morning. I took it as good news because at the time I was a widow, and I was wondering what I heard. Was it real? We both heard it at the same time.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And what a fantastic, you know, what a fantastic thing to hear. Was this just before she was pregnant? I bet it was.
Yeah, it said, yep. Before I found out my oldest daughter was pregnant.
I think, you know, I think that the angels were telling you you were getting a little angel. Whether this child turned out to be a little angel or not is another matter. But I think you were being given a gift, a message from the spirit world, just as I was given a gift. Many years ago, I actually went to bed one night, and I'm sure some of you have heard this story. I went to bed one night and put my head on the pillow, and I had lots of questions, and I was answering questions about all sorts of different things. It was way in the beginning when I really wasn't sure if what I was doing was God's will, and I didn't want to do anything that for me went against God and went against Christ, because you know, I believe that Christ is my friend, my savior. Carolyn and I were actually we're editing a new book, and it's not a new book, it's an old book, but we're re-editing that, and there's a story in there about angels and about Christ. And I'm a big fan of Jesus Christ. He was the most incredible healer the world has ever known, I believe. But I was questioning, and I was worrying, and I was wondering, and I was trying to make sure that I was doing the right thing and not the wrong thing. I put my head on the pillow, and the next thing, it was as if there was an entire choir in my bedroom. I was on my own. You don't have to believe me. I know, I heard it, and they were singing the Lord's Prayer to me. So, you know, it was just incredible. It was just wonderful, and it was miraculous, and it was one of those, okay, I'm doing it right moments. You know, when you're given a gift from your angels. And who is this? Who's
Martha?
Martha.
Yeah,
so,
and she said it was 2 weeks before her daughter.
Yeah, before our daughter knew.
Right.
So I think it might have been at the moment of conception.
Oh, wow.
Little angel. Yeah. Nice, very nice.
A little
okay,
follow
then.
up with Joyce. She said, "Thank you. I understand. Her husband is braver now." And she says, "I lost my son 11 years ago on my birthday. Donnie visits him in his sleep often and plays tricks on him. I can't dream of him. So her husband is braver now."
I think that's fantastic and wonderful. I'm so sorry about your son, Joyce, but isn't it wonderful that your husband gets these visits? And doesn't it stink that you don't? But can I tell you why I think you don't? I think that he is there, and you say you can't dream of him. You know, that's a lousy attitude right there. I can't, I won't, it won't happen, it couldn't happen. How about having a more positive attitude? I think, darling, because this is such an emotional issue for you, and because it's such a painful issue for you, I think on a subconscious level, it's you who are blocking this. It's not your son who doesn't visit you, and it's not a dream, by the way, it's a visit. I think it's not that he doesn't visit you. I think that you're so afraid of your own emotions that you sort of, on a subconscious level, you perhaps block him out. And I think once you start to realize that and you start to understand that, you know, yes, it's going to be painful. Of course it is. The first time you see him, it is going to be painful. It's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be heart-wrenching. But then after that, it's going to be joyful. And I think if you understand that, relax more about it, I think there'll be a time when you will see him in your dreams. Definitely.
We've got Deborah.
Hello, Deborah.
Deborah that just had a consultation.
Oh.
Yes. A couple weeks ago.
Okay. Hello. Oh, thank goodness you're still speaking to me, Deborah. Did you have a good time at that consultation? I can't remember.
She did. She sent us feedback and we put it on Facebook. She
oh, good. Well, I'm so that you never know. You can't please everybody. But well, good. Well, hello, Deborah.
Well, her statement is, a couple of days ago, I was looking out of my door from my bedroom and saw a hummingbird fly and land on the grass, sitting there for at least 3 to 4 minutes. The same hummingbird flies to my door and sort of pokes the window, then leaves. It's happened several times. And so is this a sign from someone?
Here's what happens, people. All right. And, the Americans, the Native Americans, I don't know if they still do, but years and years ago, the Native Americans would talk about the tiny winged people, those tiny winged people, like butterflies, dragonflies, what else can you think? Birds, what else? Eagles, those tiny winged people, those little winged creatures that the spirit world will often use. So for instance, I'm going to say this to Joyce. Why I'm saying it to you, darling, I don't know, but I'm going to say it to Joyce. When you think about your son might whisper to a bird or a butterfly or a bee or whatever he chooses to send a message to you, and that little creature will come to you and show himself to you as a messenger from your son specifically. I know this has happened to you because Gregel's putting his hand on my shoulder, so I know there's been a moment when this has happened to you. And yes, who are we talking to? We're talking to
Joyce.
No.
Martha.
No.
Deborah. Sorry.
Thank you, Sammy. Are you going to take over from your mother? She's not paying attention, is she? So with birds and so on, yes, they do come often as messengers. They bring us tidings from our loved ones in the spirit world. They let us, they sometimes they come because we need to know something, or we need to be careful about what we're doing, about what we're thinking, about the way that we're living our life in that moment. Sometimes they come as a reassurance, sometimes they come as a warning of something, but mostly it's a, hi, I'm there, I'm here, from someone that you love in the spirit world. So I think that's what's happening with you. They're saying, hi, I'm here. All right, do we have another question?
We do.
Let's have another question then.
Tammy, who's a new timer here.
Hello, Tammy.
She says, at 10 years of age, I woke up to see a neon blue little boy. Can you tell me what the neon blue means?
Oh, how nice. All right. I might tell you another sort of spooky, weird story that we talked about this morning, and Carolyn said to me, you should tell that story. And I said, no, I don't want to. People think I'm really crazy, which we all know I'm a little bit crazy, but people think I'm really crazy. But I'm going to tell you my story because this story leads to that. And who, again, is this person who's asking this question? Tammy. When we see someone in the spirit world, everyone, every person, every creature, every living thing, every plant, every tree has an aura. We've talked about auras before. And Tammy, if you're a newcomer, go into YouTube and you'll see we've done lots of these shows, and we have talked about auras before. So someone in the spirit world will often come, and sometimes we will see their aura. The neon blue, I'm going to say, because it's blue, I'm going to perhaps suggest to you that you might have needed some healing at the time, because when you see blue light, blue energy with someone, it often depicts that this person is a healer or has healing energy or that sort of thing. So it may well have been at that time when you were 10 years old, you could have needed physical healing, you could have perhaps needed emotional healing. But this little boy, who could this little boy be who you've seen or who you did see? I think that this little boy was someone in your family from years before who passed, who has decided that, you know, he can connect with you, that you see him, you may see him again. But the blue is, what you're saying with the blue is his aura. And what a fantastic aura that is, because he's obviously coming to you, bringing you healing. Many, many years ago, I'm going to tell you now my really weird, crazy story. Many, many years ago, I'm going to tell this story very briefly. It was a winter time. It was bad weather. And I was in England and we had warnings. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. But I had to go out. I didn't have to go out for any other purpose except that this was a personal thing. I'm not going to tell you any more about that, but I had to go out and I had to travel, and it was like a 2-hour journey. And the roads were impassable. And as I'm, you know, driving along, of course, I asked Gregor the day before, you know, will it be safe for me to go out? He said to me, I'll get you there and I'll get you back. That was it. Well, that was all I needed to know, really. Okay, so I'm driving along, and I'm on the highway. There's no other traffic around. Only one lane is open, and that barely. And I'm driving over crunchy ice and snow, and so it was a really ridiculous thing for me to do, but I did it anyway. And I came off of my exit, and as I came off of the exit to the highway, there was a slope going down. My car cut out. I go down the slope. Guess what's at the bottom of that slope? Oh, I know what it was. It was a garage. But I've not told you the most interesting thing. As I'm driving along, and I'm probably 15-20 minutes into the drive, and I'm worrying a bit. I'm thinking, oh gosh, you know, have I made the right decision here, because the roads were really bad, etc., etc. All of a sudden, I see this, what I feel is this, like a flash of blue light, and it seems to be over to my left. So I look out of the car, because I'm thinking, what on earth was that flash? There's nothing there. I turn back to look at the road, and there on the, what do you call it in America, bonnet, hood, the hood, or the bonnet, depending on whether you're English or American or whatever you are, anyway, on the front of the car, on the hood, the Americans say, on the bonnet. Can you imagine a bonnet on a car? Can you imagine a little bonnet on a car? Okay, there sat what I thought was a little boy. He was sitting cross-legged. His back was to me. He was wearing sort of like this flowing robe thing, and he was wearing a hat. The hat was round with sort of like a conical piece on the top, you know, sort of like the Arabian Nights thing, you know, that sort of thing. Yes, I know I'm weird. I sound really crazy. I know this. I'm fully aware. So I'm sort of, you know, I don't run. I don't panic when I see these weird things. I just explain that. So I look at this little boy and I say, you know, I say, hello. I know, it's very weird. I say, hello, who are you? And he turns his head to me. And as he turns his head, I see it's not a boy at all. It's a man. It's a little old man with a goatee beard and a moustache, little tiny face. He looks at me and he just smiles at me. And Grey Eagle says to me, he's, you know, he's going to protect you. He's your, you know, traveling angel. He's your, okay, then I'm okay. He's your, you know, he's going to guide you. He's your travel guide. Okay, then. I didn't question it at all. I was just happy. He had this hat was sort of tied on his head with, you know, again, like Arabian Nights, with this sort of white scarf. And as we're driving along the road, his scarf flowing out. Anyway, to cut a long story, very, very short. If you want more of that story, you have to read the books. But I got there. My car did break down. It did need fixing. I drove back, freezing cold, no radiator, it was freezing cold. A 3-hour journey in freezing cold is not easy, but I got there and I got back. As I pulled into my driveway later that night, my driveway fortunately had a slight slope to it, and I'd literally turned the car into the, I swear this is the truth, they'd turned into the driveway and the car cut out. And I slipped down into the driveway, and that was it. And I had to get the garage out the next day to come and fix it, so on and so forth. And that was my very weird encounter. Now, I never saw that little man for years and years and years and years, until one day, and you know, probably, I'm going to say at least 10 or 15 years after this, I was on a plane. I'd forgotten all about him. I know, how can you possibly forget these things? But you know what I mean. It's in the back of your mind. You know that kind of thing, Sam, right? It's in the back of your mind. You think about it. Is it, you know, real? Or I know it was real. But, you know, anyway, it was something that happened then. But I was sitting on a plane at a particular time, and we're in the air. We're flying along in the air, and I turned to look out, and I was just in front of the wing, and I'm sort of looking out, looking at clouds and everything. There on the wing of the plane, I see this same little man. I look at him, he smiles at me, a big smile, and I smile back. To this day, I wonder, was there a problem with that plane? Was there an issue with it? Was he saying to me, I'm going to get you there safely, don't worry if you hear the pilot say something, you know, about fasten your seatbelts, don't worry about it because I'm going to get you there. Whatever the reason, that little man was there for me, just like that little boy was there for, who was it?
I'm sorry.
She's gone again.
I'm not off. It's just I'm
for one
reading
of you listening, anyway.
No, it was Tammy.
For Tammy.
Yes.
All right.
She did actually have a follow-up. That's what I was just
Let's
reading.
go with the follow-up then.
She said he was outlined in neon blue with square-toed shoes, check shirt, and braces with pulled-up socks. I have seen spirit in the physical ever since, and she's from Australia.
Fantastic. Oh, Tammy, what a fabulous, fabulous story. Isn't that fantastic? You should research that little boy. I have a feeling you're going to find a photo of him somewhere if you go back into your, you know, into your parents or even your grandparents' photos. I think you're going to find that photo somewhere. But how amazing. What a fantastic thing. And yes, you were seeing his aura. So that's great.
Joyce, with the husband who was having the dreams about her son, she says, oh, Rosemary, you hit the nail right on the head. Butterflies visit me at the strangest times. I have opened my front door at midnight and the monarchs fly in. They are always trapped on my porch. Thank you.
And there you are. The message is from your son. So, you know, you have to say hello and you have to acknowledge them. And don't be frightened, you know, about the pain, because life is about pain. We don't want to feel it. We don't like it particularly. But life, unfortunately, is about pain. And pain can teach us so much. So I'm going to put you in my healing prayers, Joyce, I think.
And Deborah says, loved my consultation. You hit on something to protect my family that no one else would have ever known.
I did.
We fixed the issue thanks to you.
Hold on.
The sun troll lady.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. All right.
The building you were drawing.
Listen to us now, Deborah. You can't just sort of leave us hanging. I told you something, you fixed it, and now it's fine. If you don't want to do it live and you don't want to tell everybody else, I perfectly understand, but you've got to email us and tell me all about it, please. I want to know the end of that story. Well, I'm glad, and I'm really glad that we helped. Anyone else with a question there?
We have
hold on 1 second. Do you have a question, Sammy? This is your one and only chance. I'm never going to allow you on this show again unless you speak to me right now. Do you have a question, Annie?
Ask her what you asked me earlier.
Yeah, go on, ask. No, don't look at your mother.
And then I said, oh, I've never even asked her that question. So go ahead and ask her.
I have a feeling that the question you want to ask me is the question that every single person who ever meets me, and I can tell you this, whether they believe or whether they don't believe, every single person who meets me wants to ask this question. It is the universal question that everybody wants to ask a medium. Go ahead and ask it. Am I right?
Yes, ask it.
Is there spirits around us right now?
There you are, you see. Really the question really is who can you see around me? Isn't that right? Wouldn't that be the more accurate question?
Yes.
Okay. And that is the question everyone wants to ask someone like me. The answer, would you like the answer?
Yes.
Yes. There are. And no, how disappointing. Am I being mean? My neighbour told me the other day that she'd seen me be mean to someone. I find it very hard to believe that because I'm not a mean person. I think it's just this horrible British sense of humour that some people don't understand. Come here, my darling. All right, who do you have around you? You do have someone around you. I wasn't going to do this, but you do. And we'll talk about it later. Or shall we talk about it now? I've got Gregor's hand on my shoulder. So very briefly, I can tell you, you have two people with you. This is not fair because there's all those people out there who really want to be on this sofa with us right now. And here you are, and you're getting special treatment, which is not fair. I have two people with you. We will go into this a bit later. I think you have, I can only tell you that this lady is so big. She's so large. She's so heavy. Not particularly tall, but she's very heavy built lady. Beautiful hair. Beautiful hair. I also have a man with no hair whatsoever. We have lots of people around you. But I'm going to just give you this message for now because we're going to talk about this, excuse me, later. You might wish you'd never ask me, right? But she says to me to tell you she's watching you, she's watching over you. And she sees everything. Ooh. But they do, you know, they just do. So we'll talk about that later. Is that good? Yeah, so you sure? You're regretting asking me? She's regretting asking me. All right, let's don't worry, you'll be fine.
All right, we've got Marty who says,
hello, Marty. Is that a man, a woman, or don't we know? Do we care? We don't care.
Sure.
We don't care. Hello, Marty. We're happy to have you anyway.
They actually had a quick question. Why is it sometimes my dad appears, but most time he doesn't? And then they say, wait a minute, change of question.
Well, let me answer that one because that's a question that not just you might ask Marty, but other people do too. It is not that he's not there. It's not that sometimes he is and sometimes he isn't, except people in the spirit world are busy. They're not there 24/7. But I think you're saying, you know, why can I see him? And then might be months or even a year or two or something before you see him again. It's not that they're not there. It's that we are not looking in the right way. We're simply not looking in the right way. We're not giving them attention. You know, it's a bit like, you know, I've talked about this before when people from the spirit world, you know, they're sort of, you know, banging on the window. They can see us quite clearly through the window, but we're not even looking at the window, or we've got the curtains drawn or something. We put up the barriers. And I like to think that I'm the vandal. I go around smashing the windows, making sure that people are able to come in. And that's not the question that Marty wanted. What's the question?
Recently, I have seen an image from a shadow on a wall at my home that I've never seen before. Besides the obvious, what am I to make of it? Does this image have anything to do with a newly forming relationship?
Normally, I wouldn't be able to answer this question. Not in this form. It would take, you know, quite a bit longer. But Grey Eagle has his hand on my shoulder, as he always does when he wants to have some import in this. So I'm going to say, whether it's to do with this new relationship or not, I'm just going to say I think there's someone in the spirit world who is letting you know that they are there and that they are watching you. And maybe just, you know, warning you to take things a little carefully and a little steadily and maybe a bit slowly, because Marty, I actually think that you can be in a bit of a rush sometimes and you make hasty choices which then backfire on you. So, you know, just for this once, can you sort of step back and don't be too hasty and just be a little bit more careful? I think that's what someone's trying to say to you here.
2 more questions.
In fact, I'm pretty sure of it. From whom?
One is Gabriella.
Hello, Gabriella.
She says, my sister-in-law felt someone was in the kitchen, which got her frightened. Next day, she and her husband relayed that her mother-in-law was at home. And she said, was this her mother-in-law saying goodbye?
I don't really understand the question. I can assume and I can surmise, but I'm a bit lost, Gabriella. You sort of, I think, you know, maybe is the English getting...
It is. It was hard for me to read that.
Right. So I'm not really sure. Your sister felt someone in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And
which had her frightened.
Which again is a great shame. But obviously, if something did happen, then it could very well be that the person in the kitchen was, you know, this was, you know, certainly.
I think I misread this. She said the next day, she and her husband realized that her mother-in-law was dead at home.
Yeah. I was just going to say this. I think, you know, this is portends something. Or maybe it's simply that your mother-in-law had already passed and was just letting you know that she was okay. It sounds to me like this is, you know, portending an event. It's like a warning or something for you. And people in the spirit world, when they come to give us warnings, they don't come to frighten us. They come to just let us know that something is going to happen and that it's God's will and there's nothing you do to change it. Many, many years ago, I'll tell you here is another strange encounter of mine. Okay, this story, all right? And I may have told these stories before, but it doesn't matter because, hey, you know, I'm going to tell them again. All right, so many, many years ago, when I was a young woman, so that's got to be at least 100 years ago, right? So many years ago, I was doing the laundry. Now, I have to tell you, Sammy and I had this conversation this morning. If you ask my daughter, which is the favorite room in my house, she will tell you the laundry room, right? And we were talking about clothes, and I was talking about how old this top is I'm wearing, because I've got clothes, not particularly this one. This one's at least, it's got to be 15 or 20 years old, maybe 15 years old at least. But anyway, I have clothes in my closet that are 35 and 40 years old. I can actually still wear them. And if I bring them out, they are pristine. You've seen my closets, haven't you, Sammy? She's been in my closets a little bit this morning. So I'm a big laundry fan. So when I tell you I'm doing my laundry, I'm concentrating on my laundry, and I was bending down, putting some stuff into the dryer. And I heard Grey Eagle whisper in my ear, there's a plane crash. And I didn't think much about it, and I'm carrying on doing the laundry because I'm a big laundry person. It all has to be done and folded and done in the right way, etc., etc. And then I hear again, there's a plane crash. Pay attention, Rosemary, pay attention, there's a plane crash. And I'm thinking, now, am I being told this because I can do something about it? What could I do about it? So then I hear again for the third time. Now, I tell you all out there, obey the 3-time rule. When you hear it once, maybe not, it's your imagination. When you hear it twice, pay attention when you hear it the third time. Just accept that it's, you know, that it is real, that someone is giving you a message, or you are seeing what it is you're seeing, etc. So when I heard this for the third time, I sort of, you know, this shows you the importance I put on this. I let my laundry go, and I got up and I went into the living room and I turned the TV on because I'm thinking I'm going to perhaps hear the news of a plane crash. No news, no plane crash, no nothing. Didn't hear anything at all about anything. So I paid attention. I watched the news later that night. Still nothing, still absolutely nothing. So I said to Grey Eagle, should I call someone? What should I do? Should I call someone? Should I warn someone? What should I do about this? And he told me there was nothing to be done. And so I did tell my friends, about this, and I was worried about it. And of course, it was either later that night or the next morning, I don't remember, but it was all over the news that the Lockerbie flight, and I can't remember what number it is now, but it was world news, made world news. Everyone on the plane was killed. It crashed down. The plane crashed in a tiny village in England. It was a major, major disaster. It is a strange thing, and sometimes we're warned about things we can do absolutely nothing about. I once had to warn a lady that her uncle, who she was extremely fond of, he was like a father to her, that he had a problem with his heart and that she should be prepared. And I was very careful about it and very gentle about it, because I try not to frighten people but yet I'm saying to Grey Eagle at this time, when I'm telling this lady about this, does she really need to know? And he said, yes, she really needs to know. And it was one of those instances where she was able to go visit with him. She was able to have time with him. And 5 days later, he had a massive heart attack and died. Now, you could say that it was completely out of the blue, but the spirit world knew all about it and knew that it was going to happen. They totally knew that it was going to happen. So when the spirit world comes to us, and they come to us and they try to prepare us for something, it's easy for me to sit here and say, don't be afraid. And of course, if something were to be told to me about people I love, I would be afraid, and I would be wondering, well, why do I need to know this? But there are certain times when we do need to know things, and we do need to be warned about things. And with the Lockerbie flight, I want to say 500 or 300. I can't remember now what the flight was, but if you check it out, with the Lockerbie flight, I needed to know. And I needed to know because I was then able to be there for people, to counsel people, and to talk to people who had lost those who in that plane crash, and to be able to say to people, it was something that was meant to be. It was meant to be. It's, are there any accidents? I don't believe so. And, I think every accident is simply something that is preordained and simply waiting to happen. Do we have another question? We must be running out of time here.
We're 3 minutes to 12. Oh, so one last
3
question.
minutes to 12. Oh,
it's not even a question, it's a statement.
Okay, how did that time go?
I know, it flew. Dean says, 2 nights ago I had a vivid dream of opening a door, and there was my mom at a sink washing up a new baby. The baby was smiling at me the whole time. I thought it was a sign for my niece, who was due soon.
I bet so. Oh, Dean, thank you for that story. That was lovely. All right. So, Carolyn, do you have anything more to say?
Just that I became a grandma again last Friday.
Yes, congratulations.
Little girl. Lane.
What's her name?
Savannah Lane.
Savannah Lane. Very nice. So that means you became an aunt again.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say to us? You've been on this show now. You've been very, very quiet. So I've forced a question out of you. Do you have anything else to say? Have you enjoyed it?
Yes.
Has it been fun?
Yes.
Do I talk a lot? So much, right? Yakety, yakety, yak, right? That's my job. I have to talk, right? I'm not even letting you answer. Do I talk a lot? Oh, she's being so sweet, right? She's being nice to me because she knows now she's going to get it from me after this show is over.
Her friends are I'm sure going to say, oh my gosh, you didn't ask this and you didn't. I'm sure her friends would have about 100 questions.
Well, there'll be another time you can come on the show, and you have to make a list of questions, Sammy. Will you come back on the show? Join us on the show? All right. All right. So, all right.
Real quick, did you want to talk?
Move over. Casanova.
The Charles Brandt story real quick?
No.
I want to save it.
You know what? We're going to... Let's talk about that another time. Strange encounters. Maybe we won't call it strange encounters because there was a lady in Florida who asked me to go ghost hunting, let's put it this way. And we do have some ghost hunting stories to tell. I'm not sure if we've done this already, but anyway, ghost hunting, ghost hauntings, all of that sort of thing. So, you know, we're going to be you know, checking that out as a topic. If you know of anyone who has a problem with a ghost or a haunting, or they feel that they've been haunted, just let us know. If you're in Florida and just around the corner, I'll come and sort it out for you. If you're somewhere else around the world, if you pay for my flight, I'll come and sort it out for you. How about that? But if you know of anyone or any stories connected with sort of ghost hunting, as we said earlier, Carolyn and I are going to be going out and about. We're going to be doing some out and about series. I've also been asked to do, I think it's 4 TV shows going ghost hunting in Orlando. So we'll let you more about that. We'll let you know more about that when that happens. I think we're going into, who is it? Somebody's house where the gangsters were, and there was a big shoot 'em up thing. So I think they want me to, I don't know what they want actually. I think they want me to see if the shoot 'em up people who died are still there, if they have any stories for us or what have you. Who knows what's going to happen? You never know on a ghost hunt what's going to happen. Never ever do you know what's going to happen. All right, so so if you have any questions, please, you know, send them in, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. Carolyn will field the questions. If you have anything else you want to ask us, Soul Signs is now out. Proud Spirit will be out very, very soon again. Do we have anything else to say, Carolyn, here?
That's about
You
it
can
today.
find
Happy 4th of
us.
July.
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Meetup and all of those other places. If you've got anything you want to tell us, anything you want to share with us, we are here again, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. And in the meantime, do we have anything else?
No.
In the meantime, happy 4th of July to all of you. Happy no, wait a minute. Happy Canada Day to all of you in Canada, because it's Canada Day, I understand, on Saturday. My friend Karen's coming. She'll be here with us next week. So happy Canada Day. Happy 4th of July, people. Remember what I said. Stay safe, but have fun. Not too many hot dogs. In the meantime, until next week, please, please, please have a very, very, and thank you for joining me, very blessed day.